All right, and from reimagining the process of design, we move to rethinking the way that we consume fashion. And our next guest is a true champion in circular economy, determined to revolutionize the fashion industry. She's the CEO and co-founder of Faircado, an AI-powered second-hand shopping application that helps online shoppers like you and me to make more affordable and sustainable choices while buying online. She's recognized as a Slush 100 winner, and she's also one of the top 100 women in social enterprises. She's making a profound impact on the world of fashion. Here she is. Let's give a warm and heartfelt applause for Evolena de Wilde Desmal.
Hi, Love Tomorrow. My name is Evolena, and I entered politics at 12 because I believed in our society's capacity to do better. Better than the 9,000 smartphones and truckload full of clothes emptied every second on landfills around the globe. And better than the 3 planets we'll need by 2050 if we continue to consume as much. And that's why I've always bought most of my stuff secondhand. It's my secret to save money and CO2. A secret that I actually share with most younger consumers. And that's why the resale market is booming. And there's a problem with my screen, so I can't see if actually you're seeing the same slide. But worth 200 billion euros in Europe today and growing 11 times faster than retail. And yet, those of you who've tried finding something specific secondhand today know that because the market is growing so fast, it is also fragmented and messy, making the experience time-consuming, inconvenient, and unsexy. When I read that 75% of millennials and Gen Z would buy more secondhand if it was easier, I knew that there was a big opportunity to do better. As a climate activist who spent years building and growing successful tech companies, I know 2 things to be true. 1, there is no future without a circular economy. If you believe that the Earth is not flat, you'll also probably agree that a linear economy on a circular planet cannot work. And 2, in order to achieve a circular economy, we urgently need to turn e-commerce into re-commerce. And to do that, we need all hands on deck, and I would also need the best partners. And so I called my friend Ali, with whom I worked at a YC-backed scale-up. He's a software engineer who co-founded one of the first Amazon for books in Iran. And our friend Ollie, a born entrepreneur who had a first exit at 18 with a second-hand marketplace. And together, we're building Faircado to help people buy better. Faircado is the first AI-powered sustainable shopping assistant working as a browser plugin that automatically finds second-hand alternatives. It uses machine learning to match the text and images and find the best second-hand deals for what our users are looking for. And as it diverts the traffic on a browser level, the websites cannot stop us. And that's why the second-hand players really love us. We are the acquisition and retention channel of their dreams. So we've already closed partnerships with 60 of the biggest resale players like eBay, Vestiaire Collective, and Back Market, and aggregated 1.5 billion products across electronics, books, and fashion. And I'll let that sink for a second because 6 months ago that number was 40 million. And our 200K GMV to date shows that our users love it too. They also love the fact that for them, Faircado is free. It's our partners who pay us for the leads and the sales that we help them generate. As our plan is to turn e-commerce into re-commerce, our browser plugin is essentially just the first step. Faircado Sustainable Shopping Assistant will soon be in every pocket, empowering every consumer to save time, money, and CO2 by making secondhand their first choice. And to make this vision a reality, we're proud to be supported already by some of the most prominent entrepreneurs and VCs in the world, with whom we closed a 3 million pre-seed investment round a few months ago after winning Slush in December. Now, before we go on and rush to listen to Rutger Bregman and the amazing other speakers and then party hard on this amazing, legendary ground floor of Tomorrowland, I'd like you to close your eyes. Because in a few years, when we've successfully turned $1 trillion e-commerce market into re-commerce, you'll think back at this moment and tell yourself and your friends that you were part of history. And so make sure to remember that name, Faircado. Thank you.
Thank you, Evolena, for sharing your incredible journey so far. Also for you, I have a couple of questions, so I'd like to invite you to sit with me. Evolena, first of all, I saw your pitch at the Slush competition in Helsinki. There you also won the competition and you pitched at one of the most renowned pitch competitions. How did that feel?
It felt great. It felt amazing. It's a bit like winning the gold medal at the Startups Olympics, I feel. I've never been to the Olympics, but it's the closest that I think it can get. Just a little bit to give the feeling of how it went. So there's 1,200 startups applying, and then when we heard that we were part of the top 100, I was already like, oh my God, is this really true? And then we needed to hand in another pitch in order to get to the top 50, and then I had to film myself in order to get to the top 20, and every time it was like a huge adrenaline moment. And then when we arrived in Helsinki with the top 20, the crew of Slush was like, okay, you are the crown jewel of the startup world. Anything that you want, any wish, we will let us know and we'll try and execute on that. And we were sitting there with Cal Henderson, the CTO of Slack, and having a chat. It felt a bit surreal. And then comes the semi-final, and I'm on stage there, and there was so much kind of excitement, so much noise. This venue is enormous. There's like a lot of neon lights, and it felt really like a big festival, but also in December in Helsinki, so very dark and so on. And I didn't take the time to actually properly focus and calm myself down before going to stage. And so at the middle of the pitch, I blank, and I'm like, fuck. Is this really happening? And so outside I was smiling, but inside I was dying, and I was like, oh my God, just find a way out of here. And I just somehow managed to still say what I had to say and say it with a smile. But I get out of the stage and I'm like, how could I have disappointed everyone? It's so sad. And then my co-founder was there, and he gives me this hug of like, I'm sorry, you did your best. I was like, oh. And then I see other friends who had never heard of this pitch before, or who had never seen me doing it, and they're like, oh my God, that was great. I'm sure you're in the top 3. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And so I didn't even want to go on the stage to listen to the top 3. I was like, forget it. And I was actually chatting with the Belgian delegations, and then just having one ear, and the moment they say, and the top 3 of Slush 100 is, and then Faircado, and I was like, what? And so that's that was just winning. That was on the Thursday, and the next day after the investment committee, meeting all of these incredible investors, and then I just made sure to be fully in my bubble, slept a lot, listened to classical music, listened to my pitch over and over and over, and then had a 1-hour walk in the forest before arriving on stage. And then I felt like, okay, now I can win this. That's how it happened.
You did. But we're often very hard on ourselves being entrepreneur.
Yeah,
so
as well, definitely.
Now, did you notice that the winning slush, that it really changed your life and your company? What impact has it had so far?
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, from one day to the next, we were kind of, all the spotlight were kind of turned on us, which was really nice. So my inbox was full of investors' requests and journalists and so on.
And did you lever that attention into investment deals, or?
Yes, exactly. And
cool.
so that's exactly what happened afterwards. Was we could all of a sudden choose among a lot more investors and choose better investors and raise more money. So
after you won the pitch, it was not a party, but you straight went for the investors.
I partied first, and actually that was a funny story. Ali, my co-founder, he was clinging on this enormous 1 million check that we received. It was like 2 meters high, and we went partying in Helsinki with that check, and we were in the metro with it, and then had a falafel.
So everyone asked you to buy them a drink?
Yes, exactly. Everyone wanted a picture. And so it was quite funny, but it had an immense impact. And I think sometimes startup founders can deprioritize a bit these types of event.
Yeah.
But it does really work when you put the effort into it. And I hope that it will be the same for tonight for the pitch competition as well.
Definitely. Yeah, it rapidly expands your network. So always a good idea to enter a pitch competition. Now, you already addressed in your presentation that the fashion industry is inherently unsustainable. And like you said really nicely, is that a linear industry does not work for a circular planet. But according to you, what still needs to happen from the consumer side, apart from finding their way to Faircado, of course?
Yeah. Well, I think you don't change a system with just one part of society being aware of it and maybe taking action. I think it really requires a systemic change that involves corporations on one side that really rethink their value model and their supply chain, and also policymakers who really realize the responsibility that they have in making sure that they're not only just keeping their own seat at the table, but that they're also making sure that future generations can also still have the possibility to live on a livable planet. And then obviously consumers have also an enormous power, right? So it's just we can really decide of the economy of tomorrow with our actions of today. If we all stopped buying Shein or Temu crap from one day to the next, they would just stop existing. And I think that's something that sometimes consumers tend to forget, the immense power that they have. And that's what we're trying to change with Faircado.
Yeah. And educating them takes a lot of time, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone's responsibility, right? And I'm far from being part of the people who want to put all of the blame on consumers. I don't think that's, I think we all evolve in a certain system, and it's a very complex system. But definitely just being aware that you can really influence economy with your daily actions. And it has happened so much. Look at just the evolution of the vegan industry in the last 5 years is enormous. The evolution of public, like transport and public transport and so on. You can really influence things with just the daily way that you spend your money, because you just vote every time you spend on something. It's a vote for, okay, this I want more of tomorrow. And so it's really about being aware of that and then trying to act upon it and then advocate for it around you.
Yeah, and also communicating the benefits for consumers of making that right choice, super important, of course.
Definitely, yeah.
The startup life can be all-consuming. What's your fuel that keeps you going? I already heard you talking about walks in the forest, classical music. Are there any habits that you have that you can also recommend to other entrepreneurs here or people in the audience?
I mean, it's difficult, right, to find a balance. Your company is a bit like your baby, so it's difficult to not identify too much with it. The other day, my mom was saying, "Why do you talk about your company when I'm asking you how you're doing?" And I'm like, well, true, shit. And so differentiating and also keeping space for other source of energy and fun and joy is immensely important. And I mean, I made the experience firsthand. A few months ago, I really had was very close to burning out, and I realized that I had spent too much time focusing and worrying about the business and not enough on spending time with my friends, going dancing, spending time with my family, doing sports. And so I do that now. Like I spend at least 1 hour per day biking and without headphones, so I can let my brain kind of rest a bit. And I make sure to also spend really time with people that I love and in nature as well. And I think it's a bit this kind of American hustle culture of if you don't work 24/7, you won't achieve anything. It's total bullshit. Like really, this kind of mentality is what got us where we are here. It what's got us to this shithole where we just have exploited way too much, are on track to kind of really burn this planet down. It's not the same mentality and the same way of operating that will get us out. So we also need to rethink this operative model and make sure that we can really create value in a different way that also nourishes us and that regenerates us and that also brings or shares some joy and some fun, because you won't last more than a year in this job if you don't have fun, that's for sure.
You also refer to yourself as being an activist.
Yes.
But activism evolved quite a lot over the years. How do you see activism working now in this day and age?
Yeah, it's a tricky topic, right? I think some people have really managed in the last years to discredit a lot the term activism, mainly people who had absolutely everything, who were clinging to the old model and the old system and who were protecting their profit so much that they didn't have any interest in things changing. And those really made a good PR campaign against activists. And what I want to say is there is so many ways of being an activist. And actually an activist is someone who's acting for a certain change, for something that they believe is or should be more represented in our society tomorrow. And so there is absolutely nothing negative about that. In fact, actually the opposite of activism is passivism. And do we want more passivism in our world? I don't think we can actually afford that. I don't think that today in the world that we evolve in, we don't have time to be pacifists and to have more pacifists around. So choose your type of activism, but be an activist. Like, it can be that you just change yourself, try and change your own environment, work on awareness, work on action, sign petitions, I don't know, give money to associations that you like, just choose to consume in a more conscious way, choose to travel in a more conscious way. There's just so many ways of being an activist, but just please don't be a pacifist. That's just really the opposite of what we need. So yeah, that's my my vision on the topic, and I truly think that talking about the fact that activism are violent is a complete nonsense. I think the opposite is true. The big corporations, the big lobby for oil and gas, for the chemical companies, for the fat and sugar industry are way more violent. They are destroying life on Earth and making sure that next generations won't even have a chance to live the life that we are living. This is real violence. Someone who glues themselves on the street is not violent at all next to that, right? So I think we really have to get clear on what is the real violence today and where does it come from and what face does it have? It's not the 5 activists in the UK who will spend 20 years in prison. I don't know if you read that last week, because they were planning on blocking one road. In Switzerland, it's the activists who blocked that road where everyone hated them. 1 year later, the road got destroyed because of the climate crisis. I mean, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think we are sometimes confusing who's the real enemy here.
Yeah, because it's also, of course, about perception, and there are so many
Definitely,
stakeholders that are also influencing how we look at certain types of activism. Now, one of the ways that you are an activist is, of course, by building Faircado.
Definitely, yeah.
What are other concrete types of how you are an activist in your life, in your personal life?
So I try as much as possible to make each and every one of my actions be in line with my values and with my internal compass. And it counts for the small and for the big things. So for instance, I don't fly if I can go to the place in less than 13 hours train. So I spend a lot of time in trains. I could say that I'm building my company part-time in a train. And then also I really try and speak up a lot and try and use as much as possible my voice in order to raise an awareness and in order to call out when I see injustice or when I see that things should be done differently or could be done differently if only people were trying a little harder. And so I think that on top of, demonstrating and really trying to talk to people who have power to really show them that we count on them to really take their responsibility, right? It's if nobody ever says anything, nothing will change. And so it's about being brave in a way and finding the courage. Exactly.
Even if it's not always easy, I can imagine.
Even if it's very uncomfortable sometimes, but it's always rewarding because in a way, you know what's the right thing. Inside and it feels wrong if you don't do it, and it feels very right if you do it. And so just let's do it a bit more.
Okay. That's a beautiful message for our audience as well. Now, we have a pitch contest here on this stage and this afternoon at 5 p.m., the Veto for Starters. You are quite experienced in pitching, so what do you think is the most important ingredient of a successful pitch? Only pick one.
Only pick one. The authenticity. I think if you tell a story that is really in line with who you are and with your values, what you're fighting for, and if your startup idea is contributing to solving something important and big, then people will want to be part of it. And then the emotions will also show. And I think it shouldn't be like... Pitching is about telling a story, right? It's about sharing a little piece of who you are and who your business is and how you see the world. And so, just be authentic, be yourself, and tell the story that you want to share.
These are good tips, of course, authenticity, and also, of course, embedding storytelling tips. So we're super curious to see how well they will do this afternoon.
Me too.
You're also joining us for the closing show, am I right?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Yes. Nice that you'll still be here. We want to thank you so much, Evolena, for coming here to Boom and telling your story at Love Tomorrow. Thank you so much for your insights. And I want to give Evolena another big round of applause. Show her some love. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
And now it's time for the DJ. Woo!